Today, with the first pick, we're getting back to our roots. We're going to take a look at these rookie quarterbacks and see how they did in week 1 of the preseason. Take a little look ahead to week 2 and see what this means, if anything. Might even look at some rookies who don't play the quarterback position, who have big plans for their NFL rookie seasons. And, Ran, I'm going to hand out my, with the first pick, rookie of the week 1 preseason. We'll get that a little bit later. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Ran Carthon. This is episode 286. And, Ran, before we get going, how many days we got here? 253 days to the 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh, PA. You're fresh off a West Coast visit back to one of your many homesteads, the San Francisco 49ers. How was that trip?
Well, first of all, you see my new digs? It's, it's the east wing. It's the east wing of my house. No, I'm joking. I'm in studio today. But no, it was fun in Ninerland, man. It was great to be back. It was like a homecoming. Myself and Keanu Martin, we worked there together for 5 years. And it was just great to be back, great to see people. But it was also weird in that as many familiar faces as you saw, it was like a ton of turnover in terms of the players. And so learning who these new faces are, it was a little bit different. But, man, it was definitely cool, and I can't wait for everyone to see how that trip went. Got a lot of cool stuff.
I'll ask you like I asked my partner, Rick Spielman, every single time he did something before he eventually said yes. You heading back to the NFL anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm going back to a couple games this year to see people play and see my friends play. And, more training camp visits if they ask. Yeah, I'm going back.
Okay, but no other jobs is what I'm hearing. You're going to stick with the podcast.
Yeah, you're my guy. I can't leave my guy unless we're a package deal. If a team says they want both of us, then we'll have to discuss. But if not, then we'll leave it where it is.
I thank you for saying that on air. So we have, when I submit that to the court after you leave me here with producer Sharon. All right, let's get into some headlines here before we talk about these rookie quarterbacks. First up, James Cook. I was at Bill's training camp a week from last Monday, so 9 days ago. And Cook, like me, was standing around watching Ray Davis, 4-year, $48 million deal. So that's $12 million per year on average. $30 million guaranteed. He wanted 15, and let's see, if you do the math here, 15 is what Derrick Henry makes, then Jonathan Taylor's at 14, Alvin Kamara's at 12.25, and then James Cook slots in the same as Josh Jacobs. So what are your thoughts on the money that he got? Is it worth it? Should he have gotten more? And what does it mean to sit in for a week of practice? Does that hurt him at all, or is that actually perhaps a good news because he didn't have an opportunity to get hurt that week he took off?
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, which we are, that's what we do. We're honest people. We had already heard that this was about the number, right? 12 per year was about the average that he was going to come in at. And then if you look at what his stats, his statistics, and you compare him to Kyren Williams, they're almost identical. And I think James Cook had played in 10 more games than Kyren Williams. So when Kyren Williams came in at 11 a year, you had to figure that James Cook was going to come in at about this 12. But if you look at the graphic here, and if you're being honest, like that Jonathan Taylor group and above, that 14 up to 20 million a year, like he doesn't belong in that group, if you're being honest, about the assessment of it. But it's a good deal for him. It's a good deal for the Buffalo Bills organization because now you have your quarterback under contract. You got your slot receiver under contract. Now you have your starting running back. And then this is why you do the sit-ins if you're a player. You're there, and these guys get work in. They're just not working while the media's there in public, but they have the indoor facility. They're running. They're getting their work in, and he'll jump in, get his reps in practice, and won't miss a beat.
All right, let's see here. We got some breaking news. What is it, producer Sharon? Oh, there it is. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders suffered an oblique injury while throwing during the early portion of practice today. This is Wednesday, August 13th, as we record this, and was held out for the rest of the session. So let's start with Shedeur then, and then we'll circle back to Cam Ward. So let's start with Shedeur. I went back to watch all his throws last week, and he was fun. First throw, a little overthrow, fine. I think he was a little nervous. Threw a big dig route deep in his own end. The 2 touchdown passes showed the touch. All the things we saw at Colorado. He played behind a not great offensive line the other night as well with the backups in there, especially the interior offensive linemen. So Kevin Stefanski said he was still QB4 after that performance. Now he has the oblique injury today at practice. What does that mean for playing this week? And what does that mean perhaps for any chance he might have to move up the depth chart before the regular season starts?
Well, they typically tell you you can't lose your job due to injury. right? And so the two people that were looking at the graphic here, Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel were both injured. So I don't think that was going to be enough. No matter how he performed, he wasn't going to necessarily shoot up the depth chart without giving those guys the opportunity to play. So I wouldn't read too much into the depth chart positioning. Now, the oblique injury is one of those deals where they could just be being cautious, knowing that they have the arms in practice to help them get through practice, and so they can assess it. And I'm sure he's probably getting an MRI right now just to see what the severity is. But also, an oblique injury is something, if we're being honest, you could just shoot it up and see what his tolerance of pain is. That's really what it's going to come down to, is the pain tolerance. How much tolerance, because it's a lot of torque. We make fun of the Dak Prescott drill where he's dropping back and he does his little hip flip, but all of that works and strains the oblique. So for him, it's just going to be a matter of how much pain he's dealing with. And if it is pain, it's nothing a little Toradol, a little Myers cocktail won't fix, at least get you through the game. But Shedeur knows what's in front of him. He knows what he has to do to take this spot and earn a chance on his team. And so I'm pretty sure he'll still be out there and playing this next game.
Oh, okay. That's good news for him, obviously, and good news for us because we like to talk about these things. So we were at Shedeur's Pro Day. We were at Cam's Pro Day, Cam Ward. I thought Cam Ward had a pretty good showing in limited reps. We saw the arm strength. Almost threw an interception. I don't know if he got fooled or just didn't read the underneath corner. But I thought he did a lot of things really well early on. It looks like he's going to play in week 2. So I'll ask you, we'll group both Cam and Shedeur together. What were your thoughts on what they did in week 1? Again, as our buddy Pete Prisco says, playing against mostly bouncers and bartenders. And also, what does that mean, the success they had, as you look ahead to week 2, and what do you want to see as Cam's going to be the number 1 and as Shedeur, again, tries to make his way up the depth chart?
Well, first things first, I love Pete, but the playing against bouncers and bartenders thing is kind of one of those deals where this is the highest level of football that you can get to, and there are a ton of people in this world that on their best day can't do what these guys that may not even be on the team can do. And so, like, I digress on that. But if you're honest about it from Shedeur's standpoint, he was playing with backups as well. And it wasn't like he was out there with the first team. He was playing with the 2s and the 3s because every second unit in the preseason is a mixture of the 2s and the 3s. And so he performed really well. Like you said, once he settled in, then he was money. And that's what we talked about on the show. What did we want to see? We wanted him to be efficient. We wanted him to get in and out of the huddle, wanted him to move the ball, and didn't necessarily have to score touchdowns on every drive, but move the ball and get points. And he scored on 3 drives. He had the 2 touchdown passes and another drive that led to a field goal. So I thought his performance, I thought he played really well. And as you saw with the outpour of love that he got on social media, I kind of refer to him right now as America's nephew because everybody was out in droves of support of him. But then to pivot over to Cam Ward, like Cam, he was efficient. He moved the offense. You saw some of those flash and plays that he's known for, those big plays. You can see the connection that him and Calvin Ridley have. They connected on 3 passes. And so this next outing, what you want to see from Cam is you just want to see him continue to progress and move the offense, see him get more settled. Like you mentioned, the pick he almost threw, those are things that he's going to learn from, and then he'll learn how to manipulate the coverage. And so now you just want to see him just continue to be more comfortable, spread the ball around, build more of a connection with everyone else because you know these defensive coordinators are going to do everything in their power to take Calvin Ridley away from him.
Yeah, I'm looking through my notes here, going back through Cam's week 1 performance. His best throw in my mind, he threw a speed out to Calvin Ridley, who they're on the same page. On the 1st and 20 early in the second quarter, threw it to his left, 3-step drop, threw with anticipation, hit Calvin in the face, and those are all the things that you want to see a quarterback do that you don't necessarily know they can do when you work them out in the spring. So we know who Cam's going to be. I think he's going to be fine. It's just a matter of getting him some consistent weapons outside of Calvin Ridley, and we'll see how that plays out. But I'm looking forward to these guys in week 2 as well. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to look at some other rookie quarterbacks who played pretty well and not too bad. And that's going to be Jaxson Dart and Tyler Shuck. We'll talk about both of those guys and what their NFL futures look like in 2025 right after this. All right, Ray, let's start with Jaxson Dart. Quickly, his performance over the weekend in Buffalo, and then what that means for that quarterback room going forward with the New York Giants. They made it clear, Brian Daboll has, that Russ Wilson's going to be QB1. Russ Wilson was QB1 last year in Pittsburgh, and now he's no longer there. But Jaxson, here's what I noticed about the first preseason game, and you tell me what this means, if anything. They started him off with a lot of RPOs and quick game, which is what he did at Ole Miss and did it well, probably to get him comfortable. Had a couple passes batted down the line of scrimmage. I don't know if that's just unfortunate or just not finding the lanes. And then he had that great touchdown pass to the left side, got the ball out on time, got hit in the mouth, and delivered it in stride to little Jordan Humphrey. So those are all positive, showed a little bit of athleticism as well. So what do you take away from that? And then looking ahead to the rest of the preseason and what this quarterback room has a chance to look like, are we still going to be patient with Jaxson, or did we see glimpses where we might think about moving him up and giving Russ a little competition earlier rather than later?
Well, I think first of all, the one thing I want to say is how Coach Daboll used him, right, and let him do things that he's comfortable with. That's what Bill O'Brien did with Deshaun Watson when he had a young Deshaun Watson in Houston. Gave him things he was comfortable with that allowed him to go out and play to the best of his ability, and then you mix in what you want to do in your concepts. So I thought it was a really good first showing for him, showed some command. And like you said, like coming from that Ole Miss offense, which is like a one-read system, he was able to process and get the ball out. And so you like that about him. But even that showing is no reason to speed up his progression. You've already committed to Russell Wilson, at least starting the season as QB1. And by all accounts, everything I've gotten out of the Giants building about how Russ has performed, like Russ has been great. The guys in the locker room respect him. They love him, and he's done a good job of showing leadership from the quarterback position there, which is what you need. And this allows you to allow Jaxson Dart to grow. Physically, he's going to be fine, but then the mental part, right? So you're in a room with Russell Wilson, who we know is a worker, and Jameis Winston, who, for all of the antics and everyone, like Jameis is a social media star, but I don't think there's anybody in the league that won't tell you how smart Jameis Winston is and his ability to pick up things. So you're putting him in a room with two vets who have played a ton of ball, and it's going to allow him to grow. So I don't see anything that's going to force the Giants to speed up his progression and force him into the lineup when you don't have to. Now, if Russ goes out these first couple weeks and lays a dud, you know that from that standpoint, you might as well go with the young fella because you know what Jameis Winston can do, and you have to see what the future is. And especially if you're Brian Daboll and you're Joe Shane, the GM, where your job is, on the chopping block, if you will. So right now, let the young man grow, allow him to continue to get more comfortable in the offense and the system, and you just hope, again, like he just continues to progress, and then you'll eventually know that you have your starter.
So let me ask you this. So if you're the GM or even all the way down to the area scout and you're in this organization, because I was talking to one of my buddies today who's a scout, about should we put anything in a week one preseason effort? Because, again, the defenses are going to be vanilla. You're not showing a lot as an offense. And just you being able to take the snap, throw a quick out, throw a slant, that's great, but I don't know if you can read too much into it. And I was actually sort of surprised because you said there are some takeaways there that are positives for down the road. It doesn't mean they're going to be a Hall of Famer, but it's a great starting point. So on the spectrum of it doesn't matter at all to it matters 100%, where are you on the week one performances we saw from Shedeur, Cam, Jaxson, and we'll talk about Tyler Shuck in a second.
It all matters. And I can't remember what building I was in. That was a sign that was on the board. It all matters because it does. Because these are real live game reps where you can't predict where guys are going to be. And in practice, these guys have gone against their same team's defense for a long time. They know who their teammates are, what their teammates can and can't do. And now you're in game situations where there's a 2-minute situation, a backed up situation, a third and long situation, a third and short situation. So now you're getting to play situational footballs. You get to put them in these high pressure situations to see how they're going to respond and react. And these guys, these three quarterbacks that we've talked about, they've all answered the bell. And so it's, again, now you want to see them take the next step because a lot of it is mental. Can you take it from the classroom to the practice field and to the game field? And so now you've seen that happen. So now it's like, okay, what is the next step? Now where do we want to see? Now we want to see you move the ball. We want to see you score points. We want to see you have command. We want to see you change plays at the line, get us out of bad plays. And that'll be the next step for these young guys.
So let's talk about Tyler Shuck because I didn't see the game live, and I heard people say that neither Tyler nor Spencer really separated themselves. I went back and watched every drop back for both those guys. Spencer started. Spencer Rattler, the second-year player who started last year and didn't win a game. I thought he was efficient, given sort of what we had seen in the past and being in this new offense. We know about the arm strength. Thought he moved well in the pocket. Didn't make a ton of mistakes. Tyler came in, and Tyler showed off his big arm. Had a 50-something-yard touchdown pass down the left side. The receiver was wide open, but he hit him. We saw his ability to move in the pocket. He threw on time. Again, a lot of things to like. So knowing what we know about both these players and having at least a little bit of a backstory with Spencer last year playing under a different regime, where are you on these guys moving forward when you're trying to settle out who's going to be QB1?
I'll say just based on the situation with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck, I felt like coming out of week 1 preseason, it left you with more questions than answers, right? Because you would have liked to see one separate themselves from the other in one form or fashion, no matter who it was, to establish themselves as QB1 in that room. But I think it still leaves you with more questions. So this one will probably play all the way through all 3 preseason games just to see who's going to take command. And then from there, then we'll find out, But at the same time, I still think by the end of the season, you're going to still have more questions about who is the real QB1 and do they have that guy in the building. And so for this game in particular, you want to see them. They both were efficient. They both moved the ball. But you want to see which one is going to take control of the situation, score points at a higher clip. Because if you know anything about this Saints offense, what it's been in the past, it's been a high-flying offense, an offense that can score a ton of points. And I'm interested to see this group, either one of these quarterbacks, with their real number ones. Now, Chris Olave's nursing an injury, I believe. Shaheed, who both of these guys are explosive downfield playmakers. So you want to see them, whether it's preseason 2 or preseason 3, when they put their actual guys out there, you hope that those 2 receivers in particular can be out there and see how they move the offense with those weapons.
Yeah, so they both had turnovers. Tyler threw an interception on a speed out against an off corner, and the off corner just jumped it and made a good play on the ball. I guess, if he had to do over again, he probably wouldn't make that throw. And then we saw Spencer get strip sacked when the right tackle took an L, and he was blindsided. Didn't see it coming. So I'm not going to ding Spencer for that. I'm fine with Tyler making mistakes. This is when you want to make them. The other thing, this sort of feels like, and I'm not saying that Tyler Shuck is this person, but back in 2010, the Carolina Panthers drafted Jimmy Clausen in the 2nd round. You know who they took first overall in 2011? Cam Newton. So if this season goes sideways and they win 2 or 3 games and they have the first overall pick and all their prayers are answered and Arch Manning comes out, we all know how this story ends. What'll be a little more interesting if his Arch returns and then Garrett Nussmeier has a good season or someone else has a good season and they still have their first overall pick, what happens there? So we'll see how that plays out as well. One last thing, I want to get your thoughts on this. So 2 years ago, Dorian Thompson-Robinson blew the doors off preseason. He had such a good preseason. Kenny Pickett in year 2 blew the doors off his preseason. Some guy named C.J. Stroud stunk it up in week 1 of preseason against the Ravens. He threw an interception. I remember that game. So to your point that it all matters, it does, but also maybe it doesn't matter quite as much once you get to September football. Is that fair?
It's fair, but again, the reason why I say it all matters is because a guy like CJ, he stunk it up. Let's say he stunk it up in week 1, but that was a learning opportunity for him. To now you see what's happening in the league. Like, it's faster, things happen quicker. You got to be more decisive, and you have to throw on time. And then the other guys lit it up because they may not have been going against other teams' number ones. And so now, when they come in, here's the big difference from. I'll just end it this way. Here's the big difference from preseason to the regular season. Preseason, you're lining up. They're running what they run. You run what you run. Right? There's no scheme. There's no schematics involved. Now, when you get to the regular season, I can tell you now, whoever the week 1 opponents are, they've been working against and scheming up these offenses and defenses since the schedule came out. And so now you've done a ton of work. And for these young guys in the preseason, these defensive coordinators, they're looking at this film and they're like, okay, now we know how to heat this guy up. We know what he struggles with. So that's why it all matters, because you're getting these reps. And now when you get to week 1 regular season, man, and you got guys like Patrick Graham and Brian Flores and Denard Wilson, these guys will heat you up with pressures, coverage looks, rotations, late rotations. So it all matters because you're getting these live game reps to see these dudes. But when it's a difference from playing vanilla cover 2, cover 3, a couple fire zones here and there versus they're scheming an entire defensive game plan to stop you. It's a big difference.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson would like a word with Zach Orr as well because they rotated down late and David Ojabo blew him up and broke his pinky finger. But we'll talk about that later. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other rookies, not quarterbacks, who had really good week ones and maybe not so good week one, and we'll talk about what that means for the rest of their preseason and regular season after this break. All right, Rand, let's talk about some non-quarterbacks. This young man might eventually be a quarterback because he can do everything else. Travis Hunter didn't play a lot, but did play on both sides. We saw the athleticism on both sides. Threw him the ball twice. Didn't have an opportunity to do what he does in space. They were on him I don't know what on what. But no yak opportunities for him just yet. I thought defensively, he did whiff a tackle trying to be the force defender against Caleb Johnson. That's not a huge surprise, but in terms of his athleticism and movement skills, it looked exactly like we thought it was going to look. So what are your early thoughts on Travis Hunter with limited reps, and would you play him for the rest of the preseason?
Yeah, because he's got to continue to build a rapport with their quarterback in game situations. And so, yeah, you play him a little bit more. You could probably continue to only play him a little bit. But for Travis, you got the nerves out, week one, playing both sides. You showing yourself that you could do it. And then now this game here, you just want to see him make a play. On either side of the ball, just make a play, allow your athleticism to take control, and just go out and just beat Travis. So that's what you're looking for. You want to see him just make a play and just continue to have fun playing it. They're being smart in terms of managing his reps on both sides because you don't want to burn him out too fast because you know that he's going to play significant snaps for you on both sides of the ball during the regular season.
And this is something our buddy Bryant McFadden talked about as well, a former DB out of Florida State, your favorite school, and then played for the Steelers. And I saw this when you watched his snaps, Travis's snaps, in the Week 1 preseason game. A lot of times you don't have to do anything at cornerback. Like, if the run's going to the other side, you're on the field for a quote-unquote rep, but you're not being asked to exert any energy. So in that sense, you can sort of sneak some reps in there as well. So that can get you up to 75, 80 snaps per game if that's what you want to do. Does that seem about right in terms of talking yourself into getting them out there more than less?
Yeah, and then you got to think about it, too, that if they're using him on defense, he's likely going to be the third corner, right? Which we know the way the league is operating now, you play nickel, 60% of the game. So he's playing 6 out of every 10 snaps. So he is able to get breathers, here and there on defense. And like you said, if there's runaway, I know in a couple of teams I've been with, you just show a little effort on the backside chase because you want to at least make your way into the frame when the play ends. You don't want to just be completely out of it. So just give a little burst to show that you're trying, but you don't necessarily have to be, involved. And so, like I said, for me with him is just go out this week and let's see you make a play. Not try to force your way to make a play because that can hurt you as well. But just go out and allow your ability to take control. You're comfortable. And he said it. Travis said it. He was nervous when he first went out there, but the nerves went away. And now he knows what to expect. Again, all of these guys are even continuing to develop their pregame routine. So now these are things that this week he'll be a little bit more comfortable, and then he can allow himself to go out there and make a play.
All right, let's talk about another player, rookie, top 5 pick, who's probably feeling a little bit pressure, top 6 pick, I should say. Ashton Jeanty, 3 rushes for -1 yard, I believe, was the final stat line there. I don't care. Like, this is one of those things that I truly do not care about. They got him in, they got him warmed up, and then they put him on the bench. But this run game has to get going because the running game was absolutely abysmal last year for a different Raiders team with a lot of different personnel. Anything you're saying to Ashton this week in preparation, or is it just get back out there, do what you what you did at Boise State, and let's get this thing moving?
Yes, and this is the running back in me talking. Like, just do what you do because at the end of the day, no matter how great he is or is not, he can't get yards if it's not blocked up. Like, that just is what it is. And so it's not like there's gaping holes and he's missing it because he's trying to bounce. Like, if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. And then because of the amount of carries that he's had during his career, you can tell he's a volume guy. So it's hard to get a rhythm, hard to get a feel when you only get 3 carries. And so he could have easily, they could have easily kept him in. And if he worked his way up to 10 carries, I'm sure you would have saw something different. He could have had a chance to make an explosive. But it's hard to get something going, get a rhythm, get a feel for what defenses are doing when you only get 3 carries.
So a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about Ashton Jeanty? All right, that's a goose egg for people listening. I think that's right. That might be too high if we're being honest about it. He's going to be fine. And to your point, he was the workhorse offensive weapon for Boise State for the last couple of years, and I suspect he'll continue to do those things this time around. But with the help of Geno Smith and, of course, Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, and all those young guys they drafted a wide receiver. All right, let's go to, we talked about Abdul Carter in different ways. We did our summer scouting, and we talked about the off-ball linebacker position a few weeks ago as well as the edge rusher. A year ago this time, Abdul was moving from off-ball to edge, so we didn't know what quite to make of him. He might be the best player on that defense, not named Dexter Lawrence right now for the New York Giants. Again, a handful of reps against the Buffalo Bills. He gave Deion Dawkins some trouble. He lined up at 4-eye and gave the guard some trouble on the other side with a little inside counter. I don't want to oversell it, but I'm pretty excited about what we see from Abdul Carter in just 6 snaps.
Yeah, and it's what we talked about on the show time and time again. Him being with Shane Bowen and then Shane Bowen allowing himself to be creative in the different ways, like you talked about him lining up at a 4-eye. Because what you don't realize with the 4-eye, when you line up an explosive athlete like that, you force the guard to do something that's foreign to them, which is take a tackle set, which forces them to have to kick out wider, which now gives an athlete like Abdul Carter the ability to have a 2-way go. And so, that's what's going to create problems for him, because you're lining him up inside next to Dexter Lawrence, and then you got Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns on the outside. Like, where are you going to slide the protection? Because you're going to have to send the guard over to Dexter Lawrence. The center over to Dexter Lawrence. And then that's going to leave the other guard, the other tackle in one-on-one situations. So, yeah, good luck. Good luck. The best way to keep Abdul Carter off the field right now is by shortening the game, running the ball, and keeping it close and keeping them out of a game where they have a lead, because that's the best friend to any great pass rush, is playing with the lead. That's what we built in Indianapolis when I played there. We had an explosive offense. We played with the lead, and then we brought in Robert Mathis. At the time, he was a reserve defensive end, and now you got Mathis, you got Freeney, and then you kick your defensive end, Raheem Brock, to the inside. And then we had a Booger McFarland or a Monte Rager, those type of guys in there. And, you look at what Robert Mathis and Freeney both will be Hall of Famers at some point, but both of those guys went over 100 sacks. I don't want to oversell it for Abdul Carter, but this is the type of lineup that he's going into that's going to create these opportunities for him to get these one-on-one situations. And he could potentially be a double-digit sack guy this year.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm buying over on that, just because he did it, again, only 6 snaps. I do have to tell myself to calm down. But it was against the first-team Buffalo Bills offensive line, which isn't a bad unit, number one. We know how good Deion Dawkins can be. Are we underselling the fact that the Giants are maybe better than we're giving them credit for? Because it feels like over the last few years, we just automatically assume they're not going to win very many games because their offense has been sporadic with the lack of quarterback play. But you named all those dudes on defense, and you didn't even get to the second or third level yet. Is there a chance this team wins 7 or 8 games?
Yeah, if you get solid quarterback play, and I just want to say this, and we hit on Russell earlier. If you go back to Russell Wilson's the early part of his career in Seattle, he wasn't asked to do a whole lot offensively because they had a high-flying defense, a defense that was a problem, the Legion of Boom. And so Russ is used to playing complementary football. And that's what this Giants team is going to have to do. They're going to have to play complementary football, and they may have to lean on their defense a lot or often. You know what I mean? So for me, if Russell can just take care of the football and they can make plays and score enough points and allow this defense to help them, this defense, it can give people problems. I've worked with Shane Bowen. I know the complexity of the defense. I know his ability to create game plans. And this is probably the best defensive front Shane Bowen has ever had. as a coordinator and as a coach, and he's going to know how to use them. And like you said, the names I gave you were just the names up front. They have capable players in the secondary. They have capable players, at the second level at linebacker. But everything is built on the defensive front. I don't care what team you are. I don't care what scheme you use. And they have a defensive front to rival, and it's probably one of the top. If it's not the top, it's one of the top 3 in the league right now.
All right. Well, we'll see if you answer this question honestly. Is there, if you're in the front office or on the scouting department, and you see, week 1, week 2 of the preseason, and you see someone like Abdul Carter balling out, and let's say you passed on him. There are only 2 teams that passed on him as we sit here. Are you looking back going, you know what? We should have overthunk it. We should have done like Ryan Wilson said and just taken Abdul Carter, even though it may not necessarily be a position of need, which it wasn't for the Giants, but you certainly feel great about it now. Is there any looking around saying maybe, or is it too early for that?
I mean, you're building the question, and so what you do is, and again, you say I'm always going to be honest. I promise you that. And so you see these guys you that ball out that you passed on, especially if you liked them and you pass on them. As a scout, you're going to go back and look because you feel like somebody's going to ask you. Ryan Wilson is going to ask you the question like, man, how did you pass on that guy? So you want to be able to have an answer. And it's also one of those things, and I'm just speaking for myself at this point, where you see someone that you liked and they make a play and it makes you cringe, where you're like, oh God. Or the player that you really like that isn't playing well and he does something bad, it's like, oh. So you, as a scout, you keep up with that. Trust me, we all keep receipts. Everyone has the director's report of the one player that they love, that no one else liked, and then that guy balls out, and you make sure everyone knows, like, hey, I told you this was my guy. And there are people in the building that will come say, hey, man, your guy is balling. And they'll give you a little love, but you are looking, But like you said, I mean, pick number 1 was Cam Ward. We knew what that was going to be. And then Jacksonville traded up to take Travis Hunter. So the 2 guys that went before him, you understand why. And I don't think either one of those teams are going to challenge like, dang, we should have took Abdul Carter because he goes out and gets 12 sacks. Because they had needs at those positions, and there were players there that warranted being taken ahead of him.
Yep, no, that's exactly right. But Abdul Carter feels like he's going to be a problem. The double-digit sacks, as you point out, feels very realistic based on 6 snaps, and I'm going to oversell it. I'm fine with that. All right, let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some quarterbacks that aren't rookies but are young and still trying to prove themselves. We'll go to Indianapolis, and they'll make a way to Minnesota. We'll do that right after this. All right, Ran, we got about 20 minutes left. We got to hurry up because apparently security in the building is after you, and I don't want you to get caught, at least on air. That would be highly embarrassing. So let's talk about some more of these players. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to continue to defend these running backs. Let's go to Indianapolis, and every one of the brothers seen the sack that took out Anthony Richardson, broke his pinky finger. Daniel Jones is going to start week 2. So this was against the Baltimore Ravens in week 1. And the protection slid left. It was a simulated pressure. The running back runs out to release in the flat to the right side, runs right by David Ojabo, who blows up Anthony Richardson, who doesn't see him. Now, for me, this is all on Anthony Richardson. On any planet, should the running back chip David Ojabo, or is he just getting out into the route where he should have been the hot read?
Well, I'll say this: if he was hot, then he wasn't wrong, right? If the running back was not wrong, he was right. If he was hot. Now, I still need to go back and study that play some more, because then how you'll know if he was hot was if he got out and immediately got his head around, then yeah, that falls on Anthony Richardson. However, if he wasn't, and that wasn't necessarily his guy, because they could have made a gap call which brought the tackle down and that left that one defender free, you're still always taught never pass up color, especially when it comes to protecting the quarterback. But even still, Anthony Richards got to see that. He's got to feel that. Even no matter who's wrong, you have to make each other right, so to speak. So it could be a deal that falls on both of those guys, on the quarterback and the running back. So you got to get that part cleaned up. Now, in terms of Daniel Jones starting, I think this was always a part of the plan for him to start week 2. So I don't think Anthony Richardson's injury played into this any. I think that was always the plan. Anthony Richardson starts week 1. Daniel Jones starts week 2. And then I think you get your real answer for week 3 in terms of who's going to be the starter, because week 3 will probably be Indy's dress rehearsal, if you will, so where they roll their starters out. So this is another situation where Daniel Jones has to take advantage of him being available and Anthony Richardson not being available and take this and run with it. He had the entire offseason to do it with Anthony Richardson nursing the shoulder injury. And so he had that time to build a rapport with these receivers. And now he has another week of practice where he's the guy. He's taking all of the first team reps with Anthony Richardson not being able to practice as much because of the pinky. So Daniel Jones, this is the opportunity for Daniel Jones to stake his claim as the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts and be that guy that starts week 3 for the dress rehearsal.
And in AR5's defense, he was 2 or 3, and he looked okay, maybe like B+ before he got hurt. The coaching staff actually came out and said that he's seen those looks before in practice. They just got him with this one. And they also pointed out to what I said earlier, Zach Orr, they were doing a little bit more than week 1 preseason defensive scheming, because they rock and roll those safeties and then the simulated pressure, and they got him. And that's fine. But let me ask a larger question. So let's say Daniel Jones ends up being Sam Darnold 2024, and the Colts win 13 or 14 games, and they lose in the first or second round of the playoffs. Is that good long term because Daniel Jones is going to turn into a pumpkin, maybe sign somewhere else like Sam Darnold did? Or is the bigger question, now you know you can move on from Anthony Richardson, you can draft a quarterback. The problem, of course, you're going to be picking from 23 to 32. So best case scenario is Anthony Richardson balls out, but I don't know if we're going to get to that point. So DJ balls out. Have you learned anything more, or are you going to ride with him for the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, it's one of those situations where I look at it like this. I call it the cost of doing business. Right? If you have a quarterback that can lead your franchise, that you can help win games, that can help you win games and lead you to a potential playoff opportunity, then you have to ride with it. I think too many times in our league right now, and where we tend to overvalue certain guys in the draft or free agency period, is everyone is looking for this quote unquote franchise quarterback, right? And if we're honest, like, how many franchise quarterbacks are there truly in the league? Not because you're emotionally tied to a quarterback because he's your fantasy quarterback or it's your favorite team's quarterback. How many true franchise building quarterbacks are there in the league? And let's just say they're 10 or less. So you still have 20 guys that are NFL starters that you can win with, that you got to build around, right? So you talk about Sam Darnold. Like, everyone was quick to throw Sam Darnold around. He kind of bounced around. Then he found a temporary home in Minnesota, revived his career, and now he gets to prove to everyone in Seattle that he is who he was in Minnesota. And if he can go out and do that, then that's going to be the new model for people. But again, it comes back to what that costs. You go back to Anthony Richardson. If he can't stake claim to this spot now you know without a shadow of a doubt you're not picking up the 5th-year option. You're married to him for 4 years anyway because it's a fully guaranteed contract. And you hope that at some point he plays well enough that you could potentially trade him, or there's value for him that you can get a comp pick, in the following year when he's a free agent.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the downfalls with players like Anthony Richardson. Enormous upside physically. It's just a lack of experience, and he hasn't yet overcome that. Hopefully this is the year he does it. I don't know, lack of experience is the word for this next player, but Minnesota certainly is, and J.J. McCarthy. Because the Vikings wanted to re-sign Sam Darnold to a pretty big deal. He obviously left for Seattle. J.J.'s the starter. He looked great week 1 preseason a year ago before the knee injury. He looked solid this time around as well. Where are you on J.J. McCarthy for literally his second game, both preseason games, and how comfortable are you, if you're that coaching staff and front office, moving forward with him? Because there are a lot of other reasons to be happy. Defense, Justin Jefferson, in terms of how J.J. could build on what Sam Darnold did a year ago.
Well, I think you're encouraged and you feel good about going. And first of all, let's just say this. Minnesota traded up for him, right? So I think there was a level in terms of re-signing Sam Darnold that if it was a good enough number that they could, a reasonable number for them to re-sign him, then they probably would have. But you made the commitment to J.J. McCarthy because you traded up for him. Right? So coming into this year, you wanted this guy to be your starter. He's getting that opportunity. Now, let's be real. He didn't have Justin Jefferson, which had Justin Jefferson not been nursing a hamstring injury, he wouldn't have played in the game anyway. And then now going into week 1, 1 through 3, 1 through 4, he's not going to have Jordan Addison. So this is a time for them to kind of, readjust their game plan, start leaning a little bit more on the running game with Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones and getting their tight ends the ball more. And so as they work through this, you just want to see, this is what J.J. McCarthy essentially did at Michigan. He wasn't the focal point of the offense, right? They had a strong running game. They ran the ball. They were physical up front. They did that. They got the ball to the receivers, allowed their receivers to make plays. He wasn't, the whole game wasn't put on his shoulders. And he played behind a really good defense. So Minnesota's kind of built similarly to how the Michigan Wolverines was. And it goes back to what I talked about earlier, playing complementary football. If you don't have a Peyton Manning, a Tom Brady, a Drew Brees, those type of guys, you have to play complementary football. And we know with this Brian Flores defense, it can be a top 5, top 10 defense in the things that they can do. And so you're going to have to lean on that during the early part of the season.
Yeah, and look, I'll say this. In the throws that he made, he did lean heavily on Jordan Addison. They have a rapport. He ripped a deep comeback on time and hit him right in the face, and those things are encouraging. The arm strength isn't an issue. The athleticism isn't an issue. It's just a matter of him putting it all together. And to your larger point, if he does what he did in 2023 at Michigan, this team will be in good shape. We'll see how that looks and what that feels like. But I certainly understand why you would let Sam Darnold out the door and then try to get your quarterback that you drafted in the first round and trade up for, as you point out. Get him on the field in year 2 because you got to see what you got, and that's just the reality of it. So, 2 different stories in terms of the Colts quarterback situation and the Vikings quarterback situation. So we'll find out how this plays out over the next 4, 5, 6, 7 months. All right, for now, though, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you, Ran, my favorite rookie performer for week 1, and you're going to give me a guy that you liked in week 1 as well in the preseason, and we'll do that right after this break. All right, Ran, here it is. My rookie of the week with the First Pick podcast style. Got to go with my dude, Willie Lampkin, left guard, center for the Rams, undrafted free agent. 5'10", 270 pounds, 34-inch arms. If you extrapolate that out, if he were 6'5", his arms would be 48 inches. This guy is a bowling ball. I see some clips of all his pancake blocks, and I just want to ask you this. Is there a world in which he makes the team? Because he was destroying dudes against the Dallas Cowboys last weekend.
Now, the fire hydrant. I'm sure there is a world where he could make it. But, man, 5'10", 270, and you line him up against Dexter Lawrence, like that could be a problem.
That's going to be a problem for everybody. I'm proud of you, Willie Lampkin. Keep doing what you're doing. Who's your guy?
My guy is Bryce Oliver. I kind of cheated, a guy that I had some history with from my Titans days. But this is a young receiver who can make plays, but also he can contribute on special teams. And there's an interview out there where special teams extraordinaire coordinator Bones Fossil showed Bryce Oliver some praise because of his ability to play on special teams. Now, because of the depth at the Titans, at receiver, he has a chance to compete to be that 6th receiver and possibly be the 5th receiver on game day because of what he can do on special teams. Only played 17 snaps last week, and that could be due to them trying to hide him a little bit. So keep up the good work, Bryce, man. I'm proud of you. Local Fort Lauderdale kid. Go out there and do your thing, man.
Youngstown State, Bryce Oliver. By the way, just so you know, you asked me about it. My man, Willie Lampkin, wrestler in high school, won the state title at 285. So he can do that. All right, Willie, keep doing your thing. Bryce, keep doing your thing. That's it for us here with the First Pick. Scan that QR code to get your podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and we will see you guys in the next one.